Hey there, welcome everybody. I'm Chris Wooley, the photo professor, and we are at episode 4 of Office Hours. Yay! So, having a lot of fun. Previously during Office Hours, we've been looking at critiquing images, where we're looking at Photoshop, learning some new skills, learning how to evaluate images, and looking at the decisions that go beyond them. So in the last newsletter that sent out, asked for photo questions. So if you have something photography related that you want to know more about, would love to start kind of dripping some of those into the program too, so that we can all learn and grow together, because this is a great format for being able to do that. We're all connected live and we all have new information, opinions, and perspectives. So it's a great way that we can share with that too, not just one person's point of view, but everybody's. So that's going to be something new that I'm hoping that we can do. So if you do have questions for the photo professor, feel free to email me and then we can kind of discuss them on here too. So I'm going to start with one of those questions because it's kind of fun doing that. And the question was from Carol, and she wanted to know what my favorite travel camera was. And I think this is a really, really nice question because we're looking at travel specifically, and travel has a few unique things. One, we're moving around, which means that weight and size are huge. We are going from one place to another. Maybe you're hiking, maybe it's on your back all day because we can't just set it down. So we don't have our normal, say, studio stuff or things that are your normal portrait or commercial type rigs. Those ones I am in the Sony ecosystem and I absolutely love it. Sony is amazing for that. But when it comes to travel, I'm doing something a little bit different. I don't like lugging around all of that big, heavy gear. Yes, I've got lots of options and lots of resolution there, but it's not very practical. I find that I frequently don't want to bring the big, heavy lenses. I don't want to bring those things because it's a pain or it's really, really heavy to walk around with it all day. So by far, the best travel camera is going to be our cell phone. That one's a little bit of a cop-out answer, but I do want to give it some credit because the cell phone, the camera that you have with you is amazing. So you've just got it in your pocket. You're ready to go at any time. It's really, really compact, really lightweight, doesn't add anything to the mix, and the images are fantastic. I had a goal this year at image competition that I wanted to have some cell phone images merit. We just had our competition this last weekend, and they merited. I was very, very happy with that. So you can get nice quality images. You can still print with cell phone. So that's definitely fun. And some of the newer ones, like the iPhone, that camera is good. So if you're just looking for something that's always with you, that one's really hard to beat. But more to Carol's question on like, okay, if we're gonna go beyond what the cell phone camera is, what am I looking for in a travel camera? And I mentioned in the studio that I'm in Sony. I love my Sony system, but when I'm traveling, or just walking around, I like the Olympus. And so I've got an Olympus OM1 Mark II. And this is a micro four thirds camera. And I think micro four thirds are a little bit underrepresented because these things are awesome. They have a 2x crop factor, which means that I get a whole bunch more zoom than I do with my full frame camera. It is very, very compact. And one of the things that I really, really enjoy about it, I just got to show off a lens demo real quick. So on my Sony, this is a 105 millimeter macro lens. So if you're doing macro photography, this is awesome. This exact same type of lens, this is the micro four thirds version. This is a 60 millimeter, which is actually a 120 millimeter equivalent on our full frame camera. So 105, 120, look at that size difference. Look at that weight difference. Holy cow, which one do I want to throw into the camera bag and carry around all day? This one. Which one do I not want to take unless I have a very specific task in mind? This one. So when it comes to travel cameras, the amount of weight that you save by having those compact forms, you can fit more in your camera bag. It's really, really nice. So now, about the OM1 Mark II, or why I specifically like this camera, besides it just being micro four thirds, because there are a whole bunch of micro four thirds cameras out there, this one has amazing weather sealing that's on it. So I don't have to worry if I'm out in the rain or the snow or there's dust or anything floating about. This one is sealed really nicely. It's a very compact frame, and my favorite thing about it is that it is operational with gloves on. So if I'm in Yellowstone in winter, or it's really early or really late out and it's cold, I could be wearing gloves and I can operate absolutely everything on this camera just from the external buttons. For me, that is huge. It also has a couple other bells and whistles that I really enjoy, such as the built-in neutral density filters. So if I want to do something like have water flowing and capture that motion, I can just turn on the ND filters that are built right into the camera, and now I can get those slower shutter speeds without having to physically add on a filter. So I no longer have to have the ND filter to get those few stops extra. That is huge. Couple of that with some like in-camera focus stacking, and this is a really, really nice camera, a good price point, and I love the compact size and weight. I'm not afraid to take it with me. So this is my preferred camera when when we're talking about travel cameras. What do you guys think? Let's put it into chat or unmute. Let's talk for a second. What do you think about travel cameras? What are you taking with you?
I'll chime in.
Yeah, JR.
When I'm traveling around, I'm in the Sony system also, but I like the little Zeiss 55, and I just use that lens because I've got enough resolution where if I need to crop in, I can do it. So that's kind of the small answer for me.
No, that's a great one. So we're talking walk around travel. Anything that's in that nifty 50 format has a really, really compact footprint. So the 55 or 50 millimeters or the 45 one, all are really, really nice. You can get pancake lenses too. Totally with you on that. What else are we using? Anybody else doing micro four thirds?
I am. I do the. I have the Olympus OM1, and I also do have the OMD EM1, Mark III, which I really like too. But the OM1, it's just a newer, little bit better. So, yeah.
They're fun to play with, huh?
They are fun. I love it because it's so versatile, and all those built-in things like let you photograph fireworks, in multiples, and like you said, the ND filter, do the rivers and waterfalls, and there's just pro capture, because I like to do hummingbirds, and it's really a lovely camera.
I'm with you on that. I'm with you. Anybody else have a different perspective?
Yeah, I'm an old fuddy-duddy. I'm a traditionalist. I use the Canon. My emphasis is the opposite of the ND filters. I like the wide open, so with my lens, it's a 2.8. I want to get as much light as I can with my shooting. I don't know what the Olympus and the others are like, but give me light. Yeah, that 2.8, give it to me all day long.
I'm with you on that, especially on a travel. Like this lens right here, this is a 12 to 40 2.8, which is an equivalent of 24 to 80 2.8. But look at that footprint that's on there. Yeah, I'm with you though. When you're traveling, being able to have flexibility, we can always stop down, but getting more light in can be vital, especially if you're going indoors, outdoors, or into shady areas, full sun. Flexibility is definitely nice on there.
But the OM1 systems, those lenses are good, and they have some fast lenses too. They're just a little pricey lately.
Yeah, everything's kind of going up in price on there, but they do demand a premium for it. But you have to kind of balance out like weight-wise and what's on your back versus not taking it.
Yeah, because I did own the Canon with all the various lenses and really liked it, but couldn't carry it any longer.
Yeah, those big ones, especially like the 150 to 600. It's like, whew. Man, you got to work out on there. Trade in your gym membership. You're set.
Yeah.
All right. Let's start looking at some images here. So we're going to kind of pop back. We'll touch base on a couple more images coming through. Or excuse me, a couple more questions coming through. But do want to start getting in. Actually, we're going to go in just a little bit bigger up here. So this is an image from Amy. And we're talking about backlit images here. And so we got this super cute monkey. And we've got a really, really visually interesting subject. But Amy's question specifically was how much or how bright do we want this? Do you want it so that you have that pure, clean silhouette and the environment goes out? Or, she sent two of them, do we want something with a little bit more light that comes through so that we can get a little bit of a scene that we're starting to see. So which one's going to be the correct answer? Do we like to have the tighter composition? Do we like to have it so that we get a little bit more detail that's coming in? I've got my opinion on this, curious on what yours is. For me, I love seeing a little bit of detail on that silhouette so it's not a pure silhouette. If I am going to go in the pure silhouette, then I want to really have a strong composition, or we've got something that's super interesting. So looking at these two images, this one we're in and we get that really toned down, so we're not blowing out details in those highlights, maybe a teeny tiny bit on the back, but not much that's up here on this one. The secondary one, we have a lot more, especially on the environmental settings. So for me, I prefer the technique that's in the second image where we see a little bit more of the scene or the setting coming through. Although I do enjoy this tail, that is just amazing for the composition on this one. I just think it's a very cool moment, and you know what you're looking at, and you're like, ooh, that looks like it's fun. But in terms of technique, I prefer this one where we get a little bit of texture, a little bit of detail coming in here. And we can see that, like, if I zoom up on this one, that we do have some detail that's coming in here. So I dig in that feeling with it. What do you think? Are we more in the camp of really strong, give me those total blacks, or do we like to see some detail? Looks like on here, prefer detail, like the sitting monkey, so the one where we see some detail that's on it. So it's looking like chat is going for the detail version of it. I do want to show, using the same technique, another one. This was done in studio by my wife, and this is my pup Zoe. And so this was a nice kind of rim light that's coming through, but we get some of the light that crosses over it. So we get the mask of the face being lit and a little bit of that chest, and then we still have that deeper image, or that darker tone. So we have no details in this area, but lots of details in these other leading up areas. Now, if we can, ultimately, if we can get these monkeys to say, hey, let's turn your face just a little bit into the sun so we can get a little bit of that light coming in, that, I think, is the beautiful hybrid where we can preserve some of the texture and still maintain that deep shape and form that's up there. So if you can control it, I like to get a little bit of that texture coming across. If you can't control it, then having just a little bit of detail that comes in with an established setting is really nice. Now, the second part of Amy's question was how much negative space. So this one's in pretty tight where we get that strong form that's happening. And this one, we've got a little bit more of that environmental setting. Now, I personally enjoy having a little bit of a scene, so it's not just an up-close study of what that figure is, but gives us a little bit of context in there. So when I'm looking at it, I'm going to pull up the crop tool here, and if yours is coming up pre-configured, let's say that you have like or 8.5:11 or something, you're like, I want to get rid of that. We can just hit that clear button, and it will reset all of that so we can move and zoom about. And we can play with the ratio or ratio crop that's there. But I'm going to come back up to what our full image is. And we can see that on this base image, she's got our monkey coming down to our bottom third, which is a really nice spot for it. If we wanted to have this as a very large printed piece with a little bit more of an introspective look, we could take this up and give them even more negative space up top. And let's come up in here. Oop, let me get up there. Where's my little enter button? It's not going. There we go. Okay. So this one where we now place it in a smaller section on the back gives it a sense of scale and a little bit more environment. This would be beautiful if it was a large art piece, something you could stand back and look at. Now, if it's not being printed large, this is probably a little bit too much space that's on there. So let's look at a different way of cropping it. And in this one, I'm going to bring up this grid again so we can kind of see what's happening and say, okay, these areas back here, they're a little bit distracting. Let's kind of bring that in just a little bit. And I don't need as much room. I want to try to get that monkey closer to that edge. So I'm just going to bring in this one just a little bit. I like that we've got this a little bit of foliage that's up front. It gives a little bit more of a resting spot for our eye, kind of keeps us locked into this composition. And then I can bring down this crop just a little bit so that now our primary subject's taking up 2/3 of the image. So we got a little bit of space above and below, but we've got that nice main function that's up here. So for me, this is a very pleasing crop where we still get the story, we get the environment, but it's not quite as tight as what our previous image was. So I find that to be kind of a fun way it goes through. What do you guys think about the crop? Do we like stuff that's really wide and tighter? How are we feeling on that?
this is John. You were going in the right direction there. I wouldn't, for me, I would love the pano. I love coming down, but I wouldn't have shortened the boundaries on the left and right. I just more of that pano there.
You would have kept it the extreme pano?
Yeah, that's just me. I would have just brought down the dead space on the top there. Exactly. That's exactly what I would do right there. That's just me.
Yeah, and this can be very effective too. That's a nice thing, especially when we're working in digital formats and we're not stuck to, I need to be in the 2:3 format, or I need to be in the 4:5, like an 8x10 printing. We can do whatever we like, and we can add in digital mats. If we are going to leave it wide, we just want to make sure that we're addressing some of these mergers that are on the edges, just so they're not distracting. And that's something that we can take in really quick and just kind of pop those out, just so they're not pulling attention away as much. So something that kind of cleans up here. Anyone else have a comment on it? Some like it. Some says it depends on the image. We'll take that. All right, we're going to keep moving on. Get rid of that one. We already looked at Ms. Zoe here. So I got an image from Wallace, and we've got a couple of cool things happening. We've got a train that's coming through. I'm totally digging all these curves, the nice harmonious colors. I like that we have the train with the greens and the yellows, and our image has greens and yellows in it. That is fantastic. So this one, I think a crop is going to be major for it. We've got some stuff down on the bottom, not adding to our story. So I'm just going to take this bottom crop up somewhere around here. Now we've got a lot more focus on it. The top trees, again, aren't adding a whole lot to the story. I think that the colors that we have and the direction of that train, that motion, is what's really telling this one. So I'm just going to bring that one down a little bit too. Don't let that one come up. Just like that. I don't want to get too aggressive on this bottom piece. Maybe we can come up just a little bit more, but I don't want to start having mergers where we're like, this line's now intersecting. So I'm going to come down here just a little bit and just look at that. We went into that pano direction again. I'm a sucker for the panos, but we've just taken out the distracting elements. We now have this motion of the train, which is our primary subject. We've got some great color harmony with it. We do have to decide, are the black bears in this area, is that part of the story? I think it's harmonious with the colors, and I think it adds a little bit to the scene that we're in. I can just imagine a bear coming and stealing a picnic basket that's hanging out up here. So we've got something that's kind of fun. We do want to watch out with how bright this area is down here. Specifically, I'm looking at this section right here. It is very, very light when we have a majority of these darker tones, deeper, richer tones coming throughout. So how can we take that down? Easy way is just creating a levels adjustment layer. I've got a new levels right up here, and with our levels we can say, you know what, we don't need those full whites coming through. I'm just going to take those down just a little bit, and this is our output that I'm doing. So I'm not dragging the whites and making it super contrasty. I'm just saying, you know what, keep everything the same, just don't output as much white. And this is affecting the entire image, but we can mask it in. And if we want to lighten or darken the image, we can just by dragging this little slider. I want to darken the rest of it so that it gives us a little bit more contrast right there. There we go. And so I'm digging what's happening here. I'm just going to invert this with Control or Command I. Gets us nice, light, and bright. And let's get a soft brush. Just coming up here, a nice soft brush. And we can just paint. Ooh, let me get white as my foreground color. There we go. Just paint some of that in. We're finding areas. Just a little bit that's there. Getting a little bit heavy in that section, so I'm just going to kind of back that off in those trees so it's not quite so dark in that one area. And then let's get rid of that contextual taskbar. Just bring back the opacity just a little bit. And look at that. We got before and after on here. Now the focus is no longer on the road. It's staying up on the train, where we have that nice sense of storytelling, beautiful color harmony that's coming through. Kind of a fun way of being able to play with it. Oh, got Pat saying your image is right on top of the sliders here. Oh, there we go. Okay. Let me come back to, thank you for letting me know that. I have chat on a monitor that's over here. So when we were looking at the settings, because I was hiding it, this is the white output that we were doing to get it so that we weren't getting those pure whites. And then to change the contrast of it once we had our white output, just dragging this middle slider to the right is going to get us a little bit darker. No, Carol, thanks. Trying to figure out how to move my square. Yep. I've got the overlay. I can also go into this one, but I think being up a little bit bigger is nicer. We'll come back over here. I'll stay down in this corner for right now. All right. Got another one. Got an image from Joni. So this one's really cool with storytelling. It's titled That Was Me. And so I'm assuming you've got a veteran. We're looking over here at a statue that's coming through. So a really, really neat moment. And I appreciate some of this compositional element where we've got our primary subject strongly in the foreground up here. And his hat's kind of coming and intersecting with what our secondary subject is. So we have almost a yin-yang sort of feeling that's coming across. So that really, really nice here weight that's coming up here. So that's visually interesting and pretty fun. I'm looking at the specific edits on this one, and it looks like there's been some retouch work that's done up here. So anytime we are going to clean up something or remove elements or darken something down, I'm not sure what was going on in that background with it, but anytime we're going to do that, we want to make sure that we're getting really nice clean lines. So zoom in to that 100%. Don't just take it back up. I'm at 100% up here, and that's where we can start to see some of these masking or cloning issues. So things can start to look a little bit funky if we get too far in there. So just making sure we're paying attention to those ones. I'm looking at the deep tones that we have in here. So we've got a lot of really dark areas. This is another area that's kind of competing for attention. I want to be focused on this moment right here, but there's a lot of high contrast areas that are pulling my attention away. So we're going to want to probably go back to the original raw file and look at balancing it. How can we keep the story in where we want it to be? And that's just going to be doing a lot of selective tone control to keep that story in the focused area and not letting our big heavy elements compete for us. So pulling attention away. So the choice and this one to have the black presentation, that one is reinforcing our dark moments, so the dark points in the story. So it's actually making the background kind of feel like it's merging into what this presentation was. If we were to have like a neutral gray or something that played up into some of this area, we might be, do I have this as a layer? Nope. Okay, let's come up here, get this one, and we'll go like that to kind of play, and let's make a levels. So now if I were to come up here, we can kind of lighten up some of this. There we go. Yeah, okay, making sure my mask's not there. Something that's a little bit more neutral. Notice how when we just lift up that background, I just did a sloppy mask here to get it, but when we lightened up some of that, now we don't have such a dominant feeling in these corners. It still is pretty dark and heavy, which is competing with the tension that's up there. So we want to make sure that we're not starting with pure black that's on there, but it's not as heavy when we lighten up that presentation just a little bit. So something to be mindful of as we're looking about. All right, let's look at more. We've got so many images today. I love it. Okay, up next, we've got Stairs by Lana. So we've got a visual interest here. Anytime that we can play with repetition of design where we have all these lines coming up, we're just repetition. Gets more. It's got a sense of rhythm, a sense of pattern on it. So stairs are a really, really cool subject to look at. They've got a lot of symbolism because we have that ascension sort of feeling. We're moving up, or depending on your viewpoint, we could be moving down. I'm going to assume that we're looking up just based on where all the leaves are on this versus coming the other way where it might be scaling down. So when we're looking at our core subject, we have a really cool visual piece that has some nice repetition, so some good design elements. Now I'm looking at the camera position on here, and I'm noticing that we're at a slight angle. We're kind of going up at a slight perspective versus being straight on to the subject. This gives it a little bit less of a polished feel to it. The other thing that I'm noticing is that we're standing probably at eye level photographing this, so we're viewpoints about right here. I would love it if we were down low so we could be looking up the stairs. That'd have a whole lot more of a powerful message that's coming across where we're saying, all right, this is our journey. We've got to go up. We've got to be reaching up. That's up here. So a slight step to the right and crouching down, I think would have a completely different feeling on this. When it comes to the processing on it, I like this area right here where we've got some beautiful colors coming through. We've got some nice leaves and texture that's happening. This is my favorite spot of the image. As we start looking up at the top, we're getting pretty dark. It looks like our blacks are really coming through up here. We've got some high contrast areas that are over here. That's pulling a lot of attention up and away from our central point of interest, which is going to be this kind of cool area up here. So we want to make sure that we're using pretty consistent technique when it comes to applying over the entire image, so we don't have a nicely exposed area and then an area of super high contrast. Now, it may have been there was something that was happening up here and we darkened it so that you stayed into the scene. I'm not entirely sure what the original image was that's looking at it, but for me, it would just be that slight movement up, angling up, and then balancing out or having a little bit more of a neutral tone when it comes to it. So, what do we think on stairs? What would you have done differently, either when photographing it or retouching it? Nope. Okay. We'll move on. So, we do have a question from Carol. What was a cell phone image using portrait? Was that a cell phone image using portrait? I'm not entirely sure what camera was used for any of these. All I get is the final image that's submitted, so I'm not sure what we were using for it.
Yeah, I didn't say anything, Chris, because I agree with you. If they had gone down at base level and shot up, that would have really made you nailed that one. So there wasn't really much to say.
Yeah, fair enough. I appreciate that. Next up, looking at this image, Lavender Haze from Heidi. So this is definitely a commercial image. And what's kind of cool with it is that we are popping. It looks like it's been presented for image competition. We've got a stroke, a presentation that's coming through. The maker did a really, really nice job of having something that's very clean, very vibrant. I'm a big fan of having that vibrant aspect to it. So I appreciate that we've got some neat motion that's coming throughout. We're playing with circular shapes quite a bit. So we've got this kind of swooping pattern. We've got another circle that's up here. We've got almost an egg-shaped circle that's up here. So we've got a lot of cool visual lines that are coming across. So things that are kind of distracting for me, we do have a very, very bold keystroke. And so a few years ago, having something that's such a bold keystroke would have been a really, really cool thing. Like, we wanted that for every image. Now, subtlety is amazing. We want to keep the focus on our primary subject. This line back here, for me, is also a little bit distracting. Would love to see it if it was maybe blended out just a little bit more. And really quick way of doing that, we can just come up here and create a gradient tool. And I'm going to set white as my foreground color. And I'm just going white to transparent and saying, you know what, let's just pop that down. That went all white that's across there. Oh no, I didn't put this on a new layer. Let's go ahead and put this on a new layer. There we go. We just had that one coming through. Now I want my subject to be in the front. So we're going to select our subject, and I'm just going to hit select subject. Note that I clicked on the layer that I wanted to select the subject on. I did that first before I tried to do it. If I was just on layer 1, it wouldn't be able to find anything that's there. So now that we have our primary subject that's up here, I can come up and create a mask. Oop, let's invert that mask. I hit Control or Command Shift I I'm just having all sorts of fun. There we go. We've got an inverted mask that's up here because it's the bottom part that I cared about. And now we can kind of paint in where the rest of it was, because we only cared about that little bit. Oop, let me come up here, and we're just getting that back in. There we go. Get back in just like that. Now we got a softer, more smooth transition in that background, just so it isn't pulling a hard line. We're able to stay in all of those light elements. Other thing I'm looking at is competing colors. So we know that this orange or yellow and purple, they are really, really harmonious. So they are complementary colors. So they're going to look good together, right? But we have a lavender drink. And so I'm imagining that purple is going to be our dominant color in this. And when I'm looking at the saturation on it, I'm just going to come up on a new layer and let's do a color sample. I'm going to pick this purple that's right up here. And let's just take a peek at this. I've got my foreground selector up here, and I'm looking at saturation. How vivid is this color? We're at 70% saturation. And the more we are up in saturation, up over here, look at that, 100%. Okay, we can still be saturated and pretty dark. So we're at that 70%. So if you're kind of thinking no saturation over here, full saturation over here, our purple was 70%. Let's look and see what our orange is, or that yellow. I'm looking up here, and look at that. That saturation's at 100%. We are at full color on that one. So that means that this yellow is going to be competing against our primary subject. And if we look at other purples in the area, I'm just going to put this off. Lavender over here, that one's at like 26% saturation, which means that our most vibrant, vivid color is this yellow. So this might be something that we consider taking down. I'm going to pop it into Camera Raw real quick. I love the color picker that's on here, same in Photoshop, and I come down to our color mixer, and I can take these yellows and look at the saturation on them and say, you know what, let's take down that yellow just a little bit. I've got the green selected. I'm like, why is that not doing anything? There we go, look at that, just taking that down just a little bit can take away just that edge, maybe a little bit of those oranges too. Go ahead and hit OK. So here it is, just a little bit more subdued. Here we have it kind of being the main featurette. Now it's a design accent or an element inside of this scene. What do you think? Do you think that it was better at full saturation, or do you think that it was better with a slightly reduced saturation that's on here? What's chat feeling like on this one?
Can you show the before and after again,
yep.
please?
Yep, so this is muted, and this is at full vibrance. Muted, full vibrance.
That's a tough one.
I know, right? We like commercial things. So here's kind of a something that at least that I have noticed, and pay attention to it. See if you find the same things that I do. If you have like Instagram or Facebook where you're posting images, any place that people are going to be scrolling through and looking at it for like a second, maybe if you're lucky, before they move on and look at the next thing. High impact, high saturation things like landscapes with that saturation cranked up all the way tend to have a little bit more stopping power. It's a little bit gimmicky, but it works. It makes people look at it. If you have something where you're going to be looking at it, like say in a gallery, something that's going to be a fine art, something that's going to be printed up on your walls, that high saturation can be a bit fatiguing and feel like it's a gimmick. So when we're looking at that social media stuff and we're just going for those instant likes, the higher saturation, I'm totally on board with. It's serving its purpose, and that was to capture attention. But if it's something that is going to be on display, that more muted tone, I'm just in love with. So what are we thinking on this one? Any thoughts on these? Muted's now too dark. I like full vibrance. Okay. Just like the concept of comparing saturation. All right. Looks like most people are preferring the higher saturation versus the more muted. So again, depends on what its intent is that's up there. But I think this is a fun image. It'd be really, really interesting to explore it up against a dark background too. It'd require being reshot just because we have so much of these white areas that are inside the image from this glass being up there. But if it was darker, I wonder how we'd feel about it. Would we still like all the vibrance and saturation? Would the purple be more dominant? Could be a fun take on that one, especially with all the twists in this glass. All right, we've got this image from Jerry. And I'm just a sucker for any time that we get that really nice atmosphere that comes through, those rays. Oh, so good. This has a really strong composition. I really like this slit. We've got some natural framing that's coming throughout. Gradations, texture, direction, everything you could just dream of and want. This is doing it right now. I love it. So what can we do to improve it? For me, the distracting element is the bottom section down here. Get a smaller brush. This area is pulling my attention away. A little bit in terms of what these hot spots are. Because we're just working with a compressed JPEG, I am not going to be able to recover those at all, but we can work on bringing this down. And a really cool way to do that is to use the curves adjustment layer. When we open up curves, just making sure, yep, okay, my picture's not blocking it. Inside the curves properties, there's this little finger icon. And when we click it, what it's going to do is it's going to now find a spot. Look at how on the histogram that's over here, as I highlight, say in light areas, I'm going to see it pop up here. And if I'm in dark areas, it populates down here. So I can come in with this hand tool. I can find an area that's light and it marks it for me, and I can just drag it down if I want to darken it. And it's going to produce a nice curve that's up there. And if there's something that's like maybe these midtones I really liked already, I can click on that and move it back up. And notice that I have my line of what this diagonal line that's going across. It lets me know where my levels were before. So I'm just taking the highlights and darkening them just a little bit. We can maybe pull down the whites if we wanted to, just a hair, so we can get those darker moments. If you get going crazy, you'll get like solarization that's coming up. But we can get a nice kind of soft sweep there. Maybe lighten up those midtones just a little bit. Here's kind of before and after of just those highlighted areas. Now I don't want it to affect the entire image. I just want it to affect down here. So I'm going to invert this mask, and that's Control or Command I, and just get a nice soft brush. And we're going to kind of just paint it in there, just kind of darken those ones down. Now, if we were working with like a raw image, we'd have a whole lot more information to put in here. Once I have that masked in, I can look at it and say, okay, do I want to pull down dark areas anymore? Want to come up? Again, this is a JPEG, so I'm getting some funky colors coming through by doing this. But if we were working in RAW or something that wasn't as compressed, we'd have a lot more detail that's coming up in there. So being able to darken down can be a nice way of just keeping us locked in. Would love to kind of match some of these tones that are up here. Get rid of that. Let's take it via levels. We don't get our cool little sliders that are up here, but we can still do our masking, and we can say, you know what, let's darken this image just a little bit and pull back those highlights just a different way. Coming up here, and we'll just paint that in again. We're at a gamut a bit with these colors, but they're kind of working just a hair. We just take that down and maybe just go luminosity with it, so just the levels. Or see if we wanted to darken or multiply. Kind of play around here. The other thing that we can do is try to recover some of these highlights. And I want to show you a technique. It's something that we can use to help add in some color so it's not a pure white, not pure blown out. Again, I'm putting on a new layer before I start sampling. But let's find a bright spot that's up here, right here. I can click on it, and I can see, look at that, I'm at 95% brightness. We have almost a pure white that's up there. Not a whole lot of stuff to work with. So instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a highlight that's up here. Maybe one of these colors up here where we've got that nice sunlight that's coming through, a nice desaturated. And I am just going to fill this in. And I'm hitting just pasting up on here. So that one's going to be Alt Backspace for me because that was my foreground color. And so now we've got this whole color that's up here, and I can just come up and go normal, and let's darken this down. And everything that was lighter, or excuse me, darker than what this color is not affected, but only the areas that was lighter now are filling in that. So now I've got this same color that I just sampled going on all those white spots. It looks a bit fake and cut out right now, and that's because it's too heavy-handed. So we just take the opacity, we slide that down just a little bit. Come up here, maybe like around 40%. So it's got a little bit of color that's in there. We're not pure white. We're still staying in these nice warm tones that are coming across. So here's our before and after with the coloring of those tones. Pretty subtle on this one. I wish we had something with some more bit depth to be able to really get those colors accurate. But in terms of looking at tonalities and controlling it, I think it's a fun technique. What do you guys think on this one? Anything you would have done differently? Andrew would have shot it in HDR. Kathy says, cool technique. Carol, much better on the highlights. Cool. All right, let's keep moving on. All right, so I've got a sample image here from Mike Price. So he's a fantastic headshot and branding photographer. He sent over some images so that we can look at them. I wanted to chat about this one because it's doing some cool things. And this is a lower resolution file, so I don't have all the fun pixels and details to work with. But I really appreciate that we have our subject in a scene. So we've got some nice settings. Use great lens choice so that we've got some environment that's up here, but it's not super distracting. It just tells us a little bit about him. The subtle notes on the chair coming back, the very warm background. He's got cooler tones that are coming throughout. So I think there's been a lot that's been done really well. Things that are kind of distracting for me. Quick one, just the reflection that's in that picture frame that's up there. the lamp feels like it's floating a bit. Like I wish we could see something kind of grounding it so I knew what was happening with it. And then the big one that I'm already seeing chat with here, all of this is pulling attention away. Like it's competing with his face that's up there. So we want to try to handle those things. And really quick one, let's start with this. We can use the remove tool and just paint out that little bit. Up here, I've got remove tool. I've got mine sample all layers and create a new layer. Hit the check mark. It'll go through, pull it out. We got it. That one totally works. If you wanted to clean it up, you could using maybe like clone or do a little bit more masking with it. But for me, that accomplishes it. I'm no longer looking at that white spot. The lamp, what I'm seeing, we've got some directional light, and this is actually motivating this kicker that's on him. And I really appreciate motivated light sources. You'll see them in movies all the time where there's going to be practicals. So any light that's actually on camera and looks like it's casting light, that's known as a practical. So like a lamp on here is a practical, and it's motivated because it's actually doing something. It's explaining why we have light that's hitting our subject. So I'd imagine in this fantasy world that we've got maybe a chandelier or a window or something that's coming and lighting our main subject, and this is just providing that nice little accent that's coming up. So if we do want to add in this lamp post, we could use something like generative fill. So I can come up here, I'm just doing a stamp layer so it all collects. And let's just type in on here, lamp base. We'll see what it does. Generative's always fun. Sometimes you end up with great stuff, sometimes not so much. Look at that. It added in a lamp base for us, and we can always go through and we can select different types of lamp bases that adds it. I think the simple one's pretty non-distracting. I don't like that we have that slight merger right there of that chair. So we can go in above it and maybe just add in a little bit of a dark line, just thicken up that base, just so we don't have a merger that's coming across. All right, now the big one we're looking at, I'm creating a stamp layer so that we can open this up inside of Camera Raw, because I love Camera Raw. I want to tone down these highlights here so that the focus stays on the face and not on that big area that's up there. So I'm going to come over here to the masking tools. There we go. And we're going to come down to people. It's going to analyze for a second. Look, it found to people. And we want to get his clothes and his body skin. So we want to get the blue of the shirt, and we want his wrists coming through. So we've got both of those selected. Now that they're selected, we can take down the highlights. Maybe take down those whites just a little bit. And now we're starting to get a little bit dark because we have some of that suit one. So I'm going to lighten up those shadows just a little bit and lower the overall contrast. So I tend to go pretty heavy on this one. We could also play with the blacks a little bit if we wanted to overall lighten the scene or something. So try to get it so we have that nice neutral base. And now with the masks up here, we can adjust how much this effect's going to go. Right now it's 100% what I just did, which is probably a little bit heavy-handed. So we can back it up. That's the original. That's at 200%, way too much. So I like to kind of get my eye back up to that 100% and slowly start pulling down. Find somewhere that makes me happy. And it's looking right here around 65% is my kind of sweet spot on this. So we're going to hit OK, and we just tone down that just a little bit. This blue still feels a little bit vibrant for me, so I might take that down just a little bit more. Coming in Camera Raw, just on the same image. And we're coming to the color mixer, and let's take our saturation of some of these blues. There we go. And the aqua's down just a little bit, so we maintain that warmth that's coming through. So here's our before and after. Before and after. So what else are we seeing on this one? Let's see from comments. Andrew saying the hands are hard. Yep, we just hit up those ones that they were really, really bright on that before image, competes with his face on it. Sarah saying the lamp's on the wrong side for lighting believability. So that one's talking about our key light versus our motivated light source. So the fact that we've got this slight rim that's coming over here and it looks like it's coming from the lamp means that's an A-OK from me, and we've got the window light being on it. Now, if it was a really warm light on his face and not this white light, I'd agree with you that we've got a very, very, very big mismatch in terms of what's happened on the image. Carol, the non-straight line on the far right. Strong line that isn't straight, like having a non-straight horizon. Oh, so we've got this kind of taper that's coming across. This one's not totally straight coming up, and I can pull up my ruler. If you don't have your rulers, you can go Command or Control R, and it'll pull up a ruler, and you can just drag those over. This is great for checking horizons. Here's this line, not totally straight. Let's check our bookshelf line, and not totally straight. So we've got some lines that are not quite there for it. For me, it looks like maybe this one's up a little bit higher. I can see that way. So maybe these top lines. I'm just going on these two. That feels a little bit straighter on there, but this line's certainly not. So that could be a great one for cropping in so we don't see it, or manually straightening out that line, depending on what's going to work best for you. I'll just pop this one in just a little bit, and we'll see it that way. If you ever want to hide those guidelines, Control or Command and semicolon hides those for you too. So you can use them for a quick design and then turn them off when you don't need them. So kind of fun. Anything that you would do on this one? Let's see. Pat wants to know, can you do that in competition? I'm assuming that you're asking about the generative fill. So generative fill is the rules on that for competition will vary depending on which competition you are entering. So be sure to check those ones out. A lot of competitions, particularly like ASPs, will allow you to use generative tools that do not require text-based prompts. So if I were to use generative expand, saying, hey, let's open this up, we're going to, oops, I didn't hit the generative feature on there, but it could expand that image, and we could be into that expand mode totally fine. But where I typed in lamp, that one is now text-based. So if I was trying to do something and we wanted to add in something over here, if I have to type it in, I can't do that. That makes it ineligible for competition. So make sure you're checking out what that particular rule is. For the most part, something like the remove tool, which does use generative fill, that one is okay to use. It's very, very much like we're using our spot healing brush. Works very, very similar, same ways. So again, we're not typing in any generative text. Now, I'm imagining that these rules are going to continue to evolve as our tools get smarter. When all this generative stuff started, text-based prompts were the only way to do things. Now there's all sorts of fun sliders and toggle switches and things like that that we can use to determine what our image looks like and what those generative elements are going to do. So it's going to keep on changing. Carol just said that in PSA, Photographic Society of America, that you cannot use the generative elements in there. All right. I'm going to, before we move on to that next one, jump back over to a new question. And I'm going to just open up a small document that I have here just so we can be looking at it. And this is a question for Mike. And he is doing some smudge painting. And he wants to know how to create or use a normal brush when he's doing smudge work. And so if we have something that has, I'm just going to do a quick, we'll go red to pink gradient that's coming across here. And no, I didn't do that. Let's actually come up here and go foreground to background. There we go. Let's try that again. Hey, there we are. So Mike wants to know if I'm using the smudge tool. If you've never used the smudge tool, this little icon right here, the little finger, it's in there with the blur and the sharpen tool. We got the smudge tool. And when you come up with the smudge tool, we're going to see, let me come up here. There we go. We're going to see that you got your default round brush. And you can choose how much strength's on there and if it's going to be affecting all the layers or just the one that you're on. So smudge can be really, really handy for just doing those small things. Right now I'm at 50%, and if I take something from like the deep saturated color and drag it across, we can do some nice smudges. You can see those colors are starting to come across, but it is a bit slow. Oop, I'm hitting all sorts of buttons. It is a little bit slow when it comes across. So Mike wants to know, how do we get it so that we can use maybe some of our normal Photoshop brushes as a smudge brush? And it's really simple to do. All we have to do is select the smudge tool, and then we come up here and we're going to see all of our brushes that are on here. So it's like, okay, you can have brushes that you make yourself or get somewhere else, but by default, we're on our soft round. But let's say we want to have something that has a little bit of texture. I've got a brush here with some texture from Woody Walters' collection, and let's get that up somewhere around here. I'm going to say at 500 pixels. Now I'm using this exact same brush. I can smudge with it, Takes a little bit, but notice that it's got some texture that's coming across. We're no longer that soft round. I don't know if this is translating on the stream, but we now have this brush that we are using, which I believe is what Mike was wanting to know, just selecting that. Now, if we wanted to do some modifications to this, like changing the brush properties, we can come up here to Window and Brush Settings. And when we do that, our Brush Settings menu is going to pop up. And so we can do something fun like, say, I want to have some scattering. So when I pull it, it's going to go off in multiple directions. So now when I pull this color and come up here, and we've got it so that it's going to be coming left and right. Now it's doing a whole bunch. Notice how smooth that this is getting as we come across. Maybe it's going to be more defined if I... it's still thinking on it. That's funny. There we go. If I put it like this, and I'm just going to go this one so we can see a little bit easier what this is doing. Okay, so I just filled that. We're going to come back to our smudge one. That same brush is up there. I'm just dragging it over. See what it's doing? So we've got some nice texture that's coming up here, and the reason that it's doing all those fun things is because we adjusted that in our brush properties. So my brush settings, come up here, I just said put some scatter on there. So now when I drag it, it's not just going one straight line like it was before. It was doing that before. With the scattering, now it's going all over, so we get kind of that smoother feeling to it. So once you have a brush that you like, maybe a custom brush that you've created, we've done some fun properties to it, and we want to save it so we can get in there again, we just open up our brush settings, and that's F5 or Window Brush Settings, and there's this little icon down at the bottom. We hit that, and it's going to say, let's make a new brush. And so we'll call this one Custom Smudge. And in here we can say, do you want to record the brush size? And it's like, yeah, I don't need that at 3,000 pixels. I want it pretty small. 500 is great. Any of the tool settings, that's where we have our fun settings like our scattering. We want to save those too, so I can hit OK. And now when I've done that, I can look in my brushes at the very, very bottom, and I'm going to see that I've got a custom smudge that's down here. So kind of cool. This is one that I had done earlier, but a custom smudge that's here. So now if I ever select that one, so I can be just in a normal brush we've got going on, and then I want to select my custom one. I do it. It's automatically going to select the smudge tool for me, and it's going to apply those fun effects that we've got going on with it. So pretty cool way of being able to do that. I really, really enjoy custom brushwork, and Mike had a follow-up question on this about creating painted backdrops. And so I'm going to show you how we can modify this tool and create some of those custom things really quick. So I'm just going to create a new document, and let's make this 8 by 10. So I'm going to go 8 inches by 10 inches. If you are getting custom ones printed up, I do like to actually work in feet. Like if you're going to have an 8-foot by 10-foot background printed up because you're going to use it in studio, you can use the same technique for doing it. But let's make just a blue harmonious background. So I'm going to come up here to just my normal brush, and I'm going to select something that has a little bit of texture on it. So I'll come back up to that particle brush we were using earlier. If I were to do just a single stamp on this one, I'm just going to put it on here so we can see what this is doing. Right there, that's what that brush looks like that we're going to be working with. It's got some texture, and this could be anything that we're sampling with. There's nothing super special or fancy about this particular brush. I just want something that has a little bit of texture on it so it doesn't feel like it's all the same. So let's start adding in some cool colors by playing with these brush settings. And we wanted to focus on blue, so I'm going to select a light blue and a dark blue. And I'm going to put my foreground color as this kind of light blue, a little bit desaturated. Something around here feels pretty good. And let's set our background color as something a little bit darker. There we go, that feels pretty good. So here's my foreground color, here's my background color. That's what we're going to be working with. So we're going to come back up to the brush settings, and that's Window Brush Settings will get us up there. And we're going to turn on scattering. So scattering we did before. I can see as I move it around, it puts it in random spots. And I'm going to click the check both axes. What this is going to do is it's going to do it so it's both vertical and horizontal that it spreads it off. Kind of cool. So I've got a spot where it's like, that's kind of a neat spot that's coming up here. Now I want to be looking at the colors. So I'm going to come down here to the Color Dynamics tab, and you have to actually click on the word for it. You can't just click the checkbox. You actually have to click on the word to get the settings. So in here, I've got apply per tip, and that one's checked, which means that every time I drag it, it's going to redo these settings. And I want to have it bounce back and forth between the foreground and the background color. And I'm going to put that, say, okay, let's do that about 50% of the time. There we go. And we can have minor modifications, like you can change the hue of these colors just a little bit, the saturation, and the brightness just a little bit. So here's what's happening when I'm painting with this now. Go across, and I'm just dragging, and we get this really cool looking effect. It's just taking our foreground color, our background color, bouncing back and forth between them with minor variations in what our color is going to be doing. And we can modify this. So if I come back up here to our brush settings and say, you know what, let's take that way down, not quite so much. And I really don't want it to change the hue. I like these hues that I have going up. And I don't want it to change the brightness very much either. Now with just those settings, much more subtle. And if we wanted to go more intense, I can crank that back up. Now, firmly going before and after, if we like that higher contrast sort of look. So this is great if we get a smaller brush, now that we can kind of see what it's doing, and just paint in areas. And I'm just dragging the same brush just around and around and around and around and around, and we're starting to fill out this texture. You have to see, depending on what your artwork is, which look is going to be best for it. But it's a really cool way of being able to play. We just barely scratched the surface on there. I don't want to spend all the time on it, but this is a really nice way of being able to create subtle backgrounds for your artwork, especially if you want it to have a little bit more of a fine art finish to it. And of course, we can change things a lot up too, like, oh no, I don't want that pattern repeating the exact same way. We can say, you know what, let's change the size around. It can go big, it can go small. Let's let it go in any direction, or be able to flip it on the X or Y axis so it goes back and forth mirrored or up and down mirrored. So those settings gives us a completely different look and feel, and this is just a matter of layering. I'm just doing one click and dragging over and over and over again, get some cool stuff. If I wanted to play with different colors, it's like, maybe I don't like that light blue so much. Now we can play up here, and we can just be in those all darker, moodier colors. Just around and around and around and around and around. Really cool way of getting this subtle kind of textured stuff as a starting point. Again, I don't want to hit up too much time on this one, but I think it's kind of fun. Has anybody here played with these jitters or customizing the properties of your brushes before? I'm addicted to them.
Quite a bit.
Carol has? Yep.
Yeah.
They're addicting, aren't they?
They really are, but one thing I had not realized was that you had to click on the words in order to pull up the properties.
Oh yeah, that gets you so much where you're like, what am I doing with texture on here? Why is it's doing something, I can see it down there, but you actually have to click on the words to get there.
Yeah.
Yep. Anybody else play with custom brushes? Nope. Okay. Well, if you geek out about brushes or doing stamp brushes or want to know how to create custom ones, reply to the email with what your questions are. I love brushes. We could spend an entire episode just talking about them. They're a lot of fun, especially when we get into the really nuanced stuff. I'm going to see if I can pull up an image. Sarah had sent this one today, and I thought it was kind of interesting. So, oh yeah, by the way, if you ever need to switch, like let's say you're on a chaotic brush somewhere, like this brush is selected and I just want to get back to my soft round brush. I'm going to make that smaller so we can actually see that it's that brush. You want to get back to your soft brown brush, hit shift and then comma, and that'll bring you to your first brush, or shift and period brings you to your last brush. Kind of a quick way of being able to quickly go back and forth between them, especially if you need to reset. So this is an image that Sarah had submitted, and what was kind of cool about it is that we've got a composite here. So this was for public radio, 20th anniversary show going on. So this is a poster that's created. And something that's kind of cool that I enjoy about it is the layout of the composition. Specifically, notice how all of our outside edges kind of point us in. So this one, they're looking in that way. This one, looking in. That way, looking in, looking in, looking in, looking in. We've got a lot of stuff that's helping direct our attention in towards this central subject. So that's a really nice compositional tool that we can use our design elements to help push us in and keep all the focus on what our central subject is, which is definitely what we want. Now, if we were to take this to the next level, so I'm looking at it, and if we're looking at just a study of his expressions, which can be kind of fun, especially if you have a very animated performer. I'm reminded of like a classic poster with like Jim Carrey making all sorts of fun faces, really, really unique exaggerations. That would be a great layout on this, where we want to explore the depth that's on here. Because we're celebrating 20 years, having something that's got a dynamic layout could be a really good choice, which would mean that we don't have as many options inside of it, but we play with variety in shape and expression. So when I'm looking at an image like that, I'd want to have at least one really dominant subject, and then maybe 3 or 4 secondary subjects that could be added into the mix. And they could be anything, whatever your favorite images are. So secondary subjects, but if we can play with size and scale, kind of think like movie posters. If you've ever seen like a Marvel movie poster, they've got their big headliner that's all featured and big on the image, and then scaled down just slightly smaller. They've got some supporting elements, and slightly smaller, they've got even more supporting details. And when they combine it all, we've got this nice visual flow that shows the different elements inside the image. If we were going to have something that's celebrating 20 years, going in that movie poster sort of feeling, could be really cool. Now, if we're going something that's going to be smaller or kind of honoring him, and we don't want to have that big dominant art piece that's there, this layout where we have everything pointing in towards our central subjects is a really, really effective method. I'm sure we've all been there where we need to create some sort of artwork for an event or a promotional piece or a memorial. So lots of different ways of doing it, but I think it's kind of fun and wanted to chat about it because it's such a great example. So thank you for sharing with us, Sarah. So
did she create a template, or just keep placing the individual images?
I'm not entirely sure how this was created. Something that you can do, we can use the place tool and the frame tool. So that's really, really helpful, and I almost never use it, so I don't even have it on my toolbar. But we can get it by coming down here to our toolbar, and we can see that we've got the frame tool. So I'll add this back in temporarily. And so inside, where did it even go now? There we go. There's the frame tool. So inside the frame tool, we could create like our square. You have it up here, and now we can take in new images and we can just drop them in to this square, and it'll automatically place them in that space, which can be kind of cool. So if you're doing a lot, like say banners for school sports or something like that, or I use this technique quite a bit when I'm doing like backstage posters for theater productions. It's like, here's moments backstage, and everything has kind of a snapshot feeling to it, and they're laid out. It's like, okay, I can take that same template and just drag and drop stuff in. So that's one way of doing it. Another way is just playing with our guides. So we can take these lines and say, okay, this is a vertical. That's a vertical coming across. That's a vertical. 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 Do the same with our horizontals where they're coming across. I'm going quickly, so I'm not super precise. So up here, now each of these sections, if I need to make a really clean, clear mask or selection for placing or cropping it in there, I can take a different image, throw it in, and get it cropped down really quickly. I'll pull up one that we didn't get to look at today, and we'll go on that one that we already did. Oh, that was a different color space. Okay. This one's in a completely different color space. It's gonna oh yeah, we're in apples. Okay, on here. Coming up here, now we should be able to. There we go. So let's say that for whatever reason we wanted this image inside our central space. I can now just do a really quick selection. My marquee tool is automatically going to clip to the edges. Okay, I can't not do this. I'm going to change this one so it's actually on the line. Okay, so now I can create this selection. We got that nice selection up here. I can put the mask on it. That mask's automatically created, and now I've got really easy layouts. And if I had another image, I just do that same thing. I've got my grids. I can just create that nice square and create a new mask on that image. I personally prefer to do that versus the placing with the frame tool, just so that I can move elements around. Because let's say I wanted to change the composition on the stair piece, I just hit that unlink between the mask, and now I can take the stair image and I can change the scale. I can change how that's cropped in. and come up with the exact layout that I want. Obviously the stairs doesn't go with this image, but it was just so that we could see kind of how that works. But we are at time. I can't believe it's already been an hour that we've been hanging out and chatting here. Thank you so much for joining me, everybody, for another episode of Office Hours. I would love to answer more of your questions. So if there's something that you're dying to know how to do in Photoshop, some camera-related question, anything that's in that realm, I love researching and coming up with answers for you. So thank you again so much for joining me, everybody. Have a good one.